The silence in an engineering exam hall is a strange thing. It's not peaceful. It's a heavy, crushing weight, filled with the frantic scratching of graphite on paper, and the silent screams of 100 minds pushed to their absolute limit. But on this day, that silence was being broken, over and over again by the squeak of a chair, the soft footsteps, and the click of the heavy classroom door. And with every click, my focus fractured, and a cold, hard knot of fury tightened in my gut. I thought I was just angry at a few shameless cheaters. I had absolutely no idea that our quiet, old-school professor wasn't just hearing those same clicks, he was counting them, and he had set a trap so brilliant, so diabolical, it would detonate the academic careers of 14 people with a single email. If you know that feeling, that burn of injustice when you see someone else take a shortcut while you're climbing the mountain, you are in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because you are now an official witness to justice. Like this video, if you believe that sometimes the smartest revenge isn't loud, it's meticulously engineered. Now grab a seat. Class is in session. The class was advanced thermodynamics. It sounds exactly as thrilling as it is. It's a world of entropy and enthalpy, of complex systems, and brutal, unforgiving mathematics. It's the kind of class that filters out the tourists from the true engineers, and at the helm of this ship was Professor Albright. To call Professor Albright old school would be an understatement. He was a man who seemed unstuck in time, probably in his late 60s, with kind eyes crinkled behind thick bifocals, a tweed jacket that had seen more lectures than I'd had hot meals, and chalk dust permanently embedded in the cuffs. He never used PowerPoint. He filled 3 chalkboards with elegant, flowing equations, his back to us for most of the lecture, lost in his own world of numbers. He was brilliant. No one doubted that. But in our hyper-connected digital world, he seemed analog. He'd occasionally fumble with the classroom computer to post grades, squinting at the screen like he was trying to decipher ancient hieroglyphs. We all had a sort of fond, slightly condescending affection for him. We saw him as a brilliant relic from a bygone era, a man who understood the fundamental laws of the universe, but was probably baffled by a smartphone. Oh, how wrong we were. The semester was tough. Albright's homework assignments were legendary for their difficulty, and his lectures, while brilliant, were dense. To keep up, you had to live and breathe thermodynamics. And a lot of students, I noticed, found a way to supplement their learning. The website was called Chegg. For those who don't know, it's a subscription service where you can post questions, and tutors will post detailed solutions. It's supposed to be a study tool. And to be fair, that's what I used it for. When I was truly stuck on a homework problem, after hours of trying, I'd use it to see where my own logic went wrong. It was a guide, not a crutch. But for a significant portion of the class, Chegg wasn't a guide. It was a ghostwriter. You could see it in the homework submissions. Solutions that were carbon copies of the ones online, with the same unique phrasing, the same weird rounding choices. It was obvious, but homework was a small part of the grade. The exams were where the real test would be. And the final exam, worth 40% of our entire grade, was the mountain we all had to climb. The morning of the final, the air in the lecture hall was thick with anxiety. You could almost taste the cortisol. 99 of us sat there, spread out, every other seat empty. Professor Albright stood at the front, holding a thick stack of exams. He gave his usual pre-exam speech. "All right, folks," he said, his voice calm and steady. "You have 3 hours. The exam is 100 points. Show your work. A correct answer with no work is a wrong answer. Your phone should be off and in your bag. If I see a phone, it is an automatic 0. You may use the restroom, but please, try to be quick and respectful of your classmates." He handed out the exams, face down. The clock on the wall ticked, each second landing like a hammer blow. "You may begin." A collective rustle of paper filled the room. I flipped mine over, and my heart sank a little. It was just as brutal as I'd feared. The questions were long, multi-part problems that required you to pull concepts from the entire semester. I took a deep breath, reminded myself to stay calm, and started working. For the first 20 minutes, There was nothing but the sound of pencils and calculators. The zone. That beautiful, focused state where the rest of the world melts away. Then, it started. A hand went up in the back. "Professor, may I use the restroom?" "Of course," Albright said, not looking up from his book. The squeak of the chair, the footsteps, the click of the door. A minute later, click, footsteps, squeak. It was a minor distraction. Annoying, but whatever. People get nervous. But then, another hand went up. And another. It became a parade, a steady, revolving door of students, suddenly afflicted with the world's most synchronized bladders. It wasn't one or two. By the 1 hour mark, I swear I'd counted at least 20 people make the trip, and they weren't the students who sat in the front row asking questions. They were the ones who sat in the back, the ones I'd seen whispering during lectures, the ones whose homework always looked a little too perfect. My focus shattered. Every time the door clicked open and shut, it was like a needle jabbing into my concentration. The knot of fury in my stomach was now a burning fire. I knew exactly what was happening. They weren't in the bathroom. They were in the stalls, phones in hand, frantically typing questions into Chegg, looking for a life raft. And here I was, wrestling with a problem on isentropic efficiency. My brain feeling like it was about to short circuit, while they were outsourcing their thinking to the internet. The unfairness of it was infuriating. It devalued every late night I'd spent in the library, every office hour I'd attended, every single ounce of effort I had poured into understanding this material. I tried to block it out. Focus, just focus. Their problem, not yours. Just finish the exam. And that's when I hit the question. It was problem number 4. Part A was manageable. It was tricky, related to something we had touched on only briefly in one lecture. But the path to the solution was there if you had been paying attention. I worked through it, checked my units, and felt a small surge of confidence. It was worth 10 points. Then I read Part B. It was worth only 5 points, but it seemed to come from another planet. It asked for a calculation based on Part A, but with a new constraint that seemed to violate the very principles we just used. It made no sense. I read it again, and a third time. My mind raced. Did I miss a lecture? Did I completely misunderstand a core concept? Is this a typo? I tried to start the problem, but every path I took led to a mathematical contradiction. My palms started to sweat. I could feel the panic rising. I looked around the room. I saw other faces, wrinkled in the same confusion. The top students, the ones I knew were brilliant, were staring at that problem with blank expressions. But the parade to the bathroom continued, unabated. I made a decision. It was only 5 points. I could spend the next 30 minutes in a state of panic, banging my head against this impossible problem. Or I could cut my losses, secure the other 85 points on the exam, and move on. It was a painful choice. I hate leaving things blank, but it was the strategic one. I drew a large line through the space for Part B and wrote unsure how to proceed. I used the remaining time to triple-check my other answers, and I needed every last second. When Professor Albright called time, my hand was cramping, and my brain felt like a wrung-out sponge. As I handed in my exam, I felt drained and defeated. I saw some of the bathroom break crew, looking smug, whispering to each other as they left the hall. They looked relieved and confident. I just felt exhausted and angry. I walked home, the injustice of it all stewing in my mind. I had worked my tail off for what would probably be a B, while they had likely cheated their way to an A. That was just the way it was, I figured. The cheaters get away with it. Until 2 hours later, an email notification pinged on my phone. The subject line was, "A note on the final exam for advanced thermodynamics." My heart jumped. Was it a curve? A correction? I opened it. The email started normally enough. "Dear students, I have finished grading your final exams. The results will be posted by the end of the day. I wanted to take a moment to discuss the exam and an issue of academic integrity that has arisen." My eyes widened. Here we go, he continued, and this is where my jaw started to drop. As many of you are aware, this was a challenging exam, designed to test your comprehensive understanding of the material. I have also been aware for some time of the prevalent use of the website Chegg in this course for purposes that go beyond studying and into the realm of academic dishonesty. Okay, so he knew. I kept reading, my heart starting to pound. I find this trend personally disappointing, not because it is clever, but because it is lazy. It cheapens the value of your degree, and more importantly, it robs you of the opportunity to actually learn. I have therefore been contemplating a way to address this directly. This is where the genius of the plan began to unfold. You may have found problem 4, specifically part B, to be unusual. This was intentional. Part A was a legitimate, though difficult, question. Part B, however, was not. It was deliberately designed to be impossible to solve using the principles taught in this or any other undergraduate thermodynamics course. There is no correct solution. I stopped reading and just stared at my screen. Impossible. He made it impossible. The wave of relief that washed over me was quickly replaced by a surge of adrenaline. What was he doing? What? I scrolled down. About 1 month ago, the email went on. I asked one of my graduate TAs to create a student account on Chegg. Using that account, they posted the exact question from 4B, worded in a very specific and unique way to ensure it was identifiable. Then, I created my own Chegg tutor account. No way. I literally stood up from my chair. This was beyond anything I could have imagined. Professor Albright, the chalk-dusted, tech-illiterate old man? He was on Chegg, posing as a tutor. The email continued, and it was like reading the confession of a brilliant mastermind. Under my tutor persona, I posted a solution to the impossible question. This solution was crafted with extreme care. It appears plausible at a first, frantic glance. It uses the correct terminology and looks superficially like a valid derivation. However, it is based on a fundamentally flawed, non-existent thermodynamic principle. The mathematical steps are logical, but the premise is complete fiction. It is a siren song of a solution. Beautiful, alluring, and leading directly to the rocks. The likelihood of any student, working independently, arriving at this exact flawed methodology and series of mistakes is statistically 0. I was speechless. My mind flashed back to the exam room. The parade of students. Their smug faces. They weren't just going to the bathroom to look up an answer. They were going to look up his answer. They were walking, one by one, directly into his meticulously constructed trap. The final paragraph of the email was the payload. The detonation. I have now graded all 99 exams. 14 of those exams had the exact, fundamentally flawed solution from my Chegg post written down for Part B. Each of those 14 students has been given a score of 0 for the entire final exam. Furthermore, as per the academic honor pledge you all signed on the front page of your exam, all 14 have been reported to the university's Academic Integrity Office for a formal hearing. Finally, I have taken the liberty of emailing the list of these 14 names to every other professor in the engineering department, advising them to be vigilant. I am profoundly disappointed, but I am hopeful that for the other 85 of you, this serves as a lesson in the value of integrity. Your grades, based on your own hard work, will be posted shortly. Sincerely, Professor Albright. I read the email 3 times. I couldn't believe it. The sheer beautiful 4D chess brilliance of it. He hadn't just caught them. He had engineered their downfall, using their own methods against them. He used their laziness, their arrogance, their disrespect for him and for the subject, as the bait. He didn't just catch them in a lie, he got them to tattoo the lie on their own exam papers, a permanent monument to their own dishonesty. The image of Professor Albright, our quiet, analog professor, sitting at his computer, creating a fake Chegg account and typing out a bullshit solution with the precision of a surgeon. It was the most gangster thing I had ever witnessed in my academic life. He wasn't ignorant of technology, he was just waiting for the right moment to weaponize it. The feeling wasn't just satisfaction, it was vindication, It was the restoration of order in the universe. Every moment of my own frustration in that exam room. Every second I spent struggling while they were cheating. It all felt validated. My decision to skip Part B, to accept a small loss in the name of honesty, was suddenly the single best decision I had made all semester. I can only imagine the sheer panic those 14 students felt when they opened that email. The dawning horror as they realized that the lifeline they'd found on Chegg was actually a noose, placed there by the very man they had so grossly underestimated. A 0 on the final. A meeting with the University Honor Council, their names circulated among the entire faculty. In the competitive world of engineering, that's not just a setback, it's a potential career killer. They didn't just fail a test, they torched their own reputations. In the end, it was a masterclass, not in thermodynamics, but in justice. It taught me that integrity isn't just a moral high ground, it's a shield. And that sometimes the most effective way to deal with people who cut corners isn't to yell or to accuse, but to build a better, smarter, and utterly inescapable trap. What's the most brilliant act of poetic justice you've ever seen? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you enjoyed watching the cheaters get checkmated, be sure to demolish that like button and subscribe for more stories of sweet, satisfying revenge. Thanks for watching.